Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, episode number 25 today for the Canadian Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix was a very fiery one once again, another sensational race for our teammate Sergio Perez, and for us to be fair as well, it was a very good one. We had a little bit of an issue at the end with an ERS failure, and that kind of hindered us a little bit. I felt like we could have fought a little bit harder with Valtteri Bottas and maybe could have got one more place, but P5, I'll take that, but Perez was, again, on another level. The car didn't look that great in qualifying, but in the race, he came alive, he dragged that car so much further up the order. Of course, we got screwed over a little bit by that extra time in the pit stops as well, so it's maybe kind of a big what-if, I guess, coming off the back of Azerbaijan. It was more promising, I felt, in terms of race pace versus Perez. I think we definitely would have been closer to him had it not been for that pit stop. And we come to Canada, as I said at the end of last episode. If I don't perform well here, and I can't even match Perez here in terms of being a lot closer to him, then we have issues, because Canada is one of my favourite circuits on the F1 game. Generally speaking, I usually always go very well on the F1 game around here, especially versus my teammates, especially in the same piece of machinery. So this will be the real litmus test if we can try and come back a little bit and try and stop the momentum Perez has. Obviously, we still want him to do well. It would just be nice if we could try and bounce back a little bit and outscore some points on him, but of course it's still great to see him performing. I mean, at the moment he's carrying the aarava Archer Racing team, which I guess is quite a very unique and cool thing, I guess, for some of you to see, because usually it's myself carrying the team if we've got a lower down teammate. But Perez doing very, very well. We've got a charity event coming up here, and we're going to decline the offer actually to boost Perez's focus even more, to maintain that, momentum he's got, because he's 88 rated, but he's got a focus of 89, which is, I think, the highest focus I've ever seen any driver have so far in our career mode series. I've seen a few like 85s, 86s, but I think 89 is maybe the highest focus I've seen from one of the AI drivers, even the other ones in the other teams, obviously, because you can see their focus in the driver market. But yeah, Perez flying high in P2 in the championship. Sebastian Vettel, though, after winning his first race in the Aston Martin team and his first race for a long, long while in Formula 1, is top of the championship. Ricardo down to P3. It was a very poor day for McLaren. Unlucky, obviously, with Lando Norris's DNF engine failure and Ricardo going down the order, and Mercedes were able to climb back up into third place in the championship. But Hamilton, not such a great day for him. He was outside the points, and Bottas obviously did beat us in the end and did get a podium, but Hamilton had a woeful one, and after looking pretty strong in the first three races, was nowhere after that contact he made with the wall. And it was the same thing with Ricardo, obviously, that pushed them both down the order. But we're going to go ahead then, ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix. We've got a fair bit of money to play around with in terms of budget, so we're going to have a look at what we can spend and what I feel like is important at this stage of this season. Now, obviously, we're going to definitely invest in the engine side of things. We've hardly done as much as we have on the other side, so I think this is a good time, a good period of this season to buy, finally, a quality control upgrade on the HQ. Only 1.2 million as well, so that's a cheaper upgrade, but it just brings it in line with what we've got on the aero and the chassis, and obviously will help us out, have that failure rate be a little bit lower. And then I'm going to delve into, I think, the marketing, because I was tempted by personnel. Maybe we can't afford those, and the upgrades I would want to bring to the aero and chassis, that's getting into the next spec, and those are very expensive as well. So at this stage, we've got a march on Red Bull and Ferrari in the R&D chart, so we don't necessarily need to be investing too much at the moment into those other departments to unlock more upgrades. At this point in the season, I'm happy just to consolidate the marketing then, boost activity management, and basically prepare this team to do bigger and better things into Season 3. Long term, I'm thinking right now, in terms of, at the moment, I'm happy with where the car is. It seems like we have a really good measure of Red Bull and Ferrari, which is, the two teams, or, Ferrari with the team I was looking to fight, but, Red Bull have been so poor this season, we're fighting them as well, and we've comfortably got them at the moment in the championship, and we're covering them off. I think at some stage, no matter what happens, McLaren and Mercedes will re-overtake us, and it will be still those three teams fighting for the championship. I'm not really, I'm not buying it yet. I'm not going to buy yet that Perez is going to carry us into some sort of championship fight with those three teams. So I think at some point we'll drop down that order, but as long as we maintain our performance against Ferrari and Red Bull, I'm happy to, we don't need to spend too much cash at the moment on the performance side of things. So that's why I invested in the marketing, because obviously down the line that'll open us up for earning more money, earning more acclaim, and better sponsors, obviously. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to head into then Saturday, taking that confidence from Azerbaijan. As I said, even though we did get beaten by Perez, it was still a really good weekend for us as well. It was a good race, despite the issues with the pit stop and whatnot, we still came back through for a very good, decent race. I thought, some of the moves we're making were really good, and we're getting a bit confident now with this car around these circuits into the second season. And as I said, Canada is always one of my favourite circuits on the F1 game, always has been, so I'm hoping we can match Perez a little bit better in qualifying, and then especially more so in the race. Because that was the thing in Azerbaijan, we were quite close to Perez, actually, in terms of the actual grid position. But then in the race, he just stormed away and had so much better race pace. I mean, he kind of was flying at one point, all the way up into the podium slot, and then obviously did finish on the podium. So, it's a very good job from him. But we are looking a little bit better in Q1, at least. We've beaten him on the timesheet, but Q1 doesn't mean anything. We're not really ramping up now. Is the business maybe in Q2, and let's see maybe where our car is. To be fair though, we lost some pace around Azerbaijan compared to other teams in quali. Myself and Perez were P8 and 10, which was surprising considering the characteristics of Azerbaijan. Long straight. I thought our car is very good in a straight line, but evidently we're losing a bit of time elsewhere in Azerbaijan. And so here in Q2, let's see. The first run is looking a little bit sheepish there. We're down in P9. Verstappen's right behind us, P10. Stroll, P11. I would say Stroll would go a lot quicker. The Aston is a good car this year, so we need to go again. And lo and behold, we're down in P10 now, so we have to make this count. We have improved by about 5 tenths there, so that will pull us through to the top 10 shootout, but it takes 2 laps, which means when you have one new set of red wall soft tyres to use in the top 10 shootout. So we're going to have to do kind of a run on a scrub set there. Perez again finds a bit of time, but we are very close. That's a lot closer. I mean, the entire grid there, there's only 4 tenths covering the top 8, so it's mighty, mighty close around here in Montreal. But myself and Perez are looking a lot more closely matched, which is what I like to see and what I was hoping to see around Montreal. So let's see the first run, remember, on an old set of soft tyres, not that great, 6 tenths off, to be expected. That's just a banker lap. Let's see what we can do. We've already gained about 3 tenths in the first 2 sectors. Red first sector actually, but green second, and then look at the time we gained at the hairpin. Literally 3 tenths alone on the traction and the rotation in the hairpin, which just shows you how much of a difference the tyre wear and the scrub set makes. Now let's try and not scrub off too much speed into the chicane, chuck it in, not too violently over the curbs, a little bit of a lift off to make sure we don't hit the wall of champions, so we lose a bit of ground. Stroll is on provisional pole right now. We go across the line. It's a massive improvement, but not enough to beat Sergio Perez. Again, it's close, but no cigar. Perez still out-qualifies us, which is frustrating, but we are very close. We're literally a few hundredths behind him, not a few tenths, so that's good news. Valence Stroll, take a bow. He gets pole position by, what? Literally nothing to Sebastian Vettel, but the Aston Martin are flying high. It's a 1-2 lockout for the Aston Martin team. Bottas showing that he's kind of had a resurgence here, out-qualifying Hamilton in P3, Ricardo P4. Lando Norris, though, down in P8, so, the DNF maybe took a hit to his driver focus, and so we're seeing that, we've said this before, it seems like it's even more exaggerated this year, that driver focus momentum. It's a massive thing, and it's especially rearing its head for the likes of Norris and now Hamilton, maybe, as he had that kind of very poor race last time out. For us, though, we're close, very, very close in qualifying terms, so I'm hoping just the race pace can come through and we can maybe finally beat Perez in a race. Let's see. There is actually some forecast, though, for some rain, so it may be an interesting race, to say the least. Let's go.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. It's a tricky circuit to tackle in wet conditions, with top speed still of critical importance down the long back straight. There are 2.7 miles and 14 corners overall on a circuit that in the dry can see average lap speeds of around 130 miles per hour. We'll be lucky to get anywhere near that today. It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. Anthony Davidson, could be a wet one today. Great to have you with us. What are your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are three big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature and visibility. Judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. A fantastic effort from Lance Stroll yesterday puts him on pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Ricardo, Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen, Perez, Norris, the owner driver and Carlos Sainz, Gasly, Tsunoda, George Russell and Ocon, Joe, Mazepin, Nicholas Latifi and Antonio Giovinazzi, Leclerc, Ireland, Fernando Alonso, they've taken a grid penalty, and Mick Schumacher. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
So not only is it just raining a little bit, it's going to be raining for, well, most of the race, it looks like. There is a tiny chance of some clear weather. Obviously, the session forecast is not 100% accurate, so, you know, there is an indication of heavy rain after that clear period. So I don't know, that may just be a kind of red herring, maybe. But it looks like it's going to be intermediate. But then you've got that heavy rain icon. So we might be going to full wets, and then to inters, and then to dries, and then back to full. I feel like that's a lot of weather changes for one 50% race, so I don't think it's going to be entirely accurate. So basically, that's even worse. So I'm going to have to just kind of see how the conditions are lap by lap and kind of judge when to make those pit stop calls, which could be quite tricky. There could be some mistakes along the way for, well, not only us, but the AI as well, I'm hoping, and we'll see how this goes. But if I was wanting to get one up on Perez, it's certainly going to be a little bit harder in these kind of conditions, but it is still calendar. It still is a track that I love. Even in the rain, I go a little bit better around here than I do compared to other circuits in the wet, so I'm hoping that kind of plays to my advantage and we can try and just get a good start really as well, get a good first pit stop with no damage this time, unlike Azerbaijan. And it's going to be certainly interesting to see how the entire race pans out, because we've got a 1-2 front row lockout for Aston Martin as we go to 5 red lights here at the Canadian Grand Prix, and we're on the way, and Lando Norris gets a much better start than I do and cuts across me, boxes me in with Carlos Sainz. We're going to dive back down the inside though of our fellow Brit Perez round the outside of Max Verstappen. Bit of contact made as we go on the outside, trying to find the room, find the grip, more importantly, to try and accelerate off this, up the slight hill before we go down the crest into the chicane. Norris on the inside, we're taking it easy, giving him all the room we can in the world and tiptoeing around on these inters, and we somehow actually pull off the move. I didn't think we were going to actually do that. I thought Perez would have had us, but no, we've made it. We're up into P8 then. Perez was unable to overtake Verstappen, so the running order then is Sebastian Vettel, Stroll down to second place then. So Vettel off second place has got the lead of this race. He won the last one at Azerbaijan. Is this going to be the start of a bit of momentum for Sebastian Vettel, I wonder? Or Stroll, maybe that's just his experience or lack thereof of experience showing off pole position, loses first place, down to second. You've got Bottas in third. Hamilton's jumped up to P4, so it's a great start then for Hamilton versus Ricardo, who's down to P5 now. He was ahead of Hamilton on the grid, and so we are now chasing after the man that we want to try and beat, Sergio Perez. So it looks like, you know, this might be a tighter knit battle than I thought. I thought, you know, if Perez was going to run away with this, he might have overtaken Verstappen straight away, but he didn't. So that's promising for us, and we are right on the back of him on lap number 2. And so as we go to the end of that lap, green, and we're just trying to find where we could possibly overtake Perez. I think this back straight may be the best chance we've got. We've got a lot of ERS. Remember, in the wet, the ERS, you basically harvest a lot more and don't deploy as much. So we've got plenty to use and to spare as we go now for the move on our teammate. Sergio Perez on the inside. It's very close. We give him the room and the benefit of the doubt, considering he's our teammate. Some extra room is given, and instead we go for the switchback move, and he squeezes us towards the wall, but we're not going to give up this time. To the inside at turn 1. Very fine, but no contact made. A lot of respect given for either side between myself and Perez, and he's still there, but we're eventually going to have the overwhelming better racing line and acceleration to get back up into P7, but he's going to try and make a move on the outside. We go defensive to the inside, a bit too tight on the hairpin for my liking, to be honest, in first gear, and we lose a bit of traction, and Perez is there on the left in the mirror. If you look, he's there. He's going to accelerate now. We're going to deploy ERS. We're going to be side by side to drag race, but looks like we're deploying a bit more electricity at this point, as we're going to stay ahead and just do enough into that apex to maintain the P7, but it's very close. We need to watch out for the hairpin. Ever since last year's game, that hairpin's so much trickier, I found. The AI are so good under the brakes, and especially rotating the car at the hairpins. We need to watch out for that and just make sure we don't give up too much time to Perez, but we've got him, and we've maintained the position for now. That's good. Now, can we try and keep that for the entire race, or will at some point Perez do what he's done so far and pull something amazing out the bag and jump us again? On lap 6, it doesn't look like it. We've actually got a bit of a gap now. 2 seconds to Perez. Purple first sector. We're catching Verstappen, so the track is getting quicker and quicker. We are getting more comfortable with these conditions, but Verstappen is in ahead on the mini-map, and the McLaren, and Sergio Perez is in. Our teammates coming before us, and is this for a full wet change? Because the track was getting quicker. I was going quicker. I didn't have any inkling that we were going to switch to full wet because I was going better. So maybe we've actually made a good gamble. I don't know if we're going quicker at this point, but everyone is coming into the pit lane to strap on the full wets, but we've continued on. Norris has as well as the 2 Mercedes cars, and Lance Stroll. Vettel's in though, the race leader was in, but both Mercs have stayed out, and Stroll. So is that the correct decision? No, doesn't look like it, because on lap 7, I set 2 reds, the first sector red, second sector red. That rain came out of nowhere. Literally, the previous lap, I said a purple sector, green sector, and then the very next lap, red, and it's time for full wets. That weather changed so quickly. It was all looking good. I still felt good going into that next lap, this in-lap, effectively. And then midway through the lap, I just thought, okay, no, the grip's absolutely gone for some reason. So here we are then. Are we going to be behind Perez, I wonder? Has he got the jump on us? No! Oh no, it's worked out for us. It's worked out for us, actually. We're quick enough. We're side by side with Verstappen. The overcut's worked. Oh, it's an actual blinder by us. So we're side by side with Max, and we've overtaken him. I take it all back. We didn't make a mistake. We made the correct decision. Oh, my God, that was so confusing. I thought we'd maybe made a massive blunder there by staying out 1-2 lap long, but no, we've done well. We're ahead of Verstappen. The overcut on the Inter's work. It was still just, not wet enough for full wets, and we made the most of that extra lap, and we got the jump on the Red Bull. That is fantastic. And we're up into P5 now for it. But obviously, the hard work doesn't end there. Lap number 12, and Ricardo is now the one pressurizing us. He's overtaken the Red Bull, showing the McLaren pace, but on the curb, a bit too much on the right-hand side. That steps out the rear end, and Ricardo has a great run. It took way too much curb in these conditions. You can't be doing that. And Ricardo down the inside, we go defensive. We just get to the apex there. I was very scared of turning in on the Australian, but we just about got there and used the ERS. But again, on the exit, again on a curb, losing the rear end. We need to stop doing that and kind of stay off the curbs, but again, we're on the curb. This time, I don't even know what that was. I went into first gear and started drifting the car, panicking basically of Ricardo being there, and he is now fully alongside us. He's ahead of us now. Ricardo's got us in a straight line though. Can we come back at him using all the ERS we've got to spare on this lap to come back through the drag race into the final chicane? Easy does it, and on the inside line, we're going to get back up into P5, but we need to stop making those mistakes, stop using the curb so much, otherwise Ricardo and Verstappen will get us, but we're now good for now. Lap 16, oh, Ricardo, Verstappen are in, and Perez is in again. Oh, this is so confusing. This weather is so, I can't tell what weather it is. Apparently we're going back to Inters. Is this the Inter period now? Yes, it is, as Perez is in, and yes, it's the green wall Inters. So I don't know. I mean, the grip was okay. I can't really say for certain if it was better or not to stay out again for an extra lap. It worked out for us last time. This time though, I'm not too sure. Hamilton's in now. Stroll's in. We've set another 2 red sectors. It's hard to tell. It's literally impossible to tell if I've gone any quicker or slower on this in-lap than I did on the first time. The first time I thought I made a mistake, and we didn't. We actually gained time on Verstappen. This time round, I don't know, because the grip levels were not really changing, in my opinion. The visuals didn't really change either. So let's see. Oh, no, I think Perez went past us there. I think we may have lost a lot of time here. Oh, no. We've lost a heap of time. We're now side by side with Perez. We almost put it in the grass. We're side by side with Checo. He's on the inside. I'm going to try and get away, but we're going to give him the room because he's still fully alongside us. He's dived down the inside, and he's actually brake checked us then into the next left-hander and maintained the gap. So Perez has got us. He's jumped us. So the unintentional gamble in the first pit stop worked this time round. Didn't work out. I say gamble. I'm not making this decision. I just don't know simply what's actually going on with the weather. My engineer has been telling me nothing about when to come in, and he's apparently been telling Perez when to come in. So I don't know. Is there some weird favoritism going on here with our engineers already favouring Perez, a leader in the championship versus us? I don't know, but Vettel at the moment is still in P1. Looks like Bottas, though. Bottas has managed to jump Stroll, so Stroll really showing maybe that inexperience, and Bottas showing that better form he had at Azerbaijan as he's up into P2. So it's a checkerboard of Aston Martin, Mercedes, as we are in P8 then, trying to re-chase after Sergio Perez, and not even him, Ricardo and Verstappen. Such a shame. We lost so much time. We gained a decent amount going from inters to wets, but we lost so much more time making that later pit stop from full wets to inters, which is just such a shame because, like I said, my engineers have been telling me nothing. Absolutely nothing in terms of when to pit. But here we are then. Purple lap actually looking good once again on inters. Down the inside, not quite enough to make the move on Perez. And of course, like I said before, being our teammate, you have to give him that extra little bit of room and respect. Even though it's been annoying to see him pitting ahead of me twice now in this race and me getting no info, we're still going to give him that respect that he deserves. He's been carrying the team so far, but we're looking to try and get one up on him, and we are going to do that. A ballsy move on the outside just before the Wall of Champions, and we're up into P7, and we're feeling comfy. I've got the purple lap. You know, it's obviously a bit of a slow lap time there, but that's because we're stuck behind Perez. And now on lap number 25, 10 laps to go, and we've gone purple and green. But Ricardo, Verstappen are in. Perez is in again. It's up in a third time. What is going on in this race? It looks... What? Verstappen's on mediums. But it looks so... Oh, my God. This game... This is a massive gripe I have with the game right now. I'm sorry to rant a little bit here, but this happened at Japan last season. How is it looking this wet and they're on dries? It simply does not make any sense whatsoever. So we have now, for the third time in this race, gone out for an extra lap compared to everyone else, and we probably lost more time because even though it looks wet enough for inters, like Japan, it's probably actually, you know, they're probably flying around this circuit. The safety car is now out, and we're now going to pit under the safety car. So will that help us a bit? Maybe, because everyone's going to go a little bit slower to try and slow down for the delta time. But I don't actually know what the safety car is out for, by the way. I actually checked the replay cameras, checked the racing incidents after this race was over. I have no clue why the safety car came out. I literally could not find a single reason why. There was no AI car stopped anywhere on circuit, so I don't know why it's been called out. But even with it being called out, it doesn't help us. We gain no time and advantage pitting under a safety car. Perez is still ahead of us. Ricardo is as well. And I assume Verstappen may be ahead of him. So we're in P8 again and on the mediums, and only now when the safety car's coming in does it look somewhat dry enough for these slick tyres. But beforehand, when everyone came in before me, you know, you can't tell. If you're just going off visuals, you can't tell. It looks wet enough for inters, and as I said, my engineer for some stupid reason has not been telling me anything this race. Like literally no info about, oh, it might be drying out soon. So I had no way to kind of guess when we should come in for the dry. So here we are then on the safety car restart. 7 laps to go in this race. This race is flown by, and I'm a little bit mad, to be honest, in the cockpit. So we're going to try and drive with a bit of aggression here to try and get Perez on the inside. Oh, he's also close on the left-hand side there. Almost made contact, but we didn't. which is the more important thing, but Perez maintains the position, doing well to defend. Obviously, this is why he's been in so well so far. You know, he's been driving excellently on that other side of the garage, as we've got yellow flags behind momentarily. Norris behind me, you know, in a quick McLaren, so we need to be careful that we don't get caught up in too much of a fight with Perez and kind of get caught up by Norris too much. He's already losing us time, though, to Ricardo and Verstappen as we now set a purple last sector, diving down the inside again at turn 1. This time, Perez locks up on the front left, feeling the pressure. It's very, very fine. We jockey for position. Had to take some avoiding action there almost, and we're going to now send one to the inside, though. It's a late move, but again, oh, so close. You could fit a piece of paper between myself and Perez there as our two tyres got so close, and we're now again trying to make a move, try the switchback, but Perez keeps parking his car in the perfect position. This is a great scrap with our teammate. It's a great squabble, but it's what I want to try and win so desperately around Montreal on the outside, but he finally get the job done, and we're up into P7. But my word, we lost like 3 seconds there in that fight, as now Perez defends against Norris, looking behind her. Oh, Perez with the big dive bomb, and we have to take avoiding action. We have to literally turn left into the right-hander to stop that. Did you see that? Perez just shot out of nowhere, defending against Norris, but decided to attack us in the end, and now Norris has got us. What I feared is happening. Norris going for the move on not only me, but maybe Perez as well, as we give up the position, concede that. A bit of oversteer as well for good measure, and we're now down to P9, and Norris is ahead of us, but can we try and re-overtake him then on lap 32? DRS, and ERS deployed to the inside of our fellow Brit.
It looks like we might have an issue. Hang in there, we're attempting to manage it.
And we've maybe got a car issue now as we're fighting Norris, and maybe even Yuki Tsunoda's joining the party. Perez getting away from us, lock up at the front right to maintain the track position just about, although to be fair, I maybe should have actually let them go and got DRS off them, because now I'm going to be a sitting duck without DRS, just deploying all the ERS down to single digits on the ERS. Here comes Norris, here comes Tsunoda, might be 3 wide into the chicane. It's very close.
The issue seems to be fixed, but we will keep monitoring it our end.
Okay, thank God, as now Tsunoda is ahead of Norris. He's held up Lando, so that's very good news for us, and our issue, whatever it was on the engine, has been solved. So we are going to be speeding back up for it. But I did think, to be fair, for a bit there, why we were a little bit slower than before. I was wondering how we're getting backed up into Norris and we're losing so much time, but it maybe was that engine issue, but now it's solved itself, or is fine for now, so we can go chasing back after Perez, who I think I'm clearly quicker than around here in these conditions right now on these mediums. So let's go chasing after him and get him. It might take the very last lap even. And speaking of, we move on to it, the back straight, and Sebastian Vettel has dominated this race ever since he overtook his teammate on lap number 1, and it's going to be back-to-back wins for the German in the Aston Martin car as he goes on to win the Canadian Grand Prix. But looking back at our POV, this is what we're focusing on. P8 for P7. Can we get Perez on the last straight here just before the chicane into it? And we have got P7. Vettel wins it though, but we have beaten Sergio Perez finally in a race after 3 in a row for him. But our car definitely lacked a bit of pace around here, especially in the wet, but even in the dry, Ricardo and Verstappen pulled away. So some question marks in terms of our race pace around here, but we've beaten Perez, not by a lot, but we've beaten him at least.
That's it then for another magnificent Canadian Grand Prix, and they've hung on to take a sublime victory here today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
I can see them on their way out to the podium now. Aston Martin are really making waves in this sport, and what a special race it was to see them earn the top spot.
Sebastian Vettel, 2 wins in a row for Aston Martin. Is this really now the start? You know, 2 wins in a row, that's a lot. You know, last year's game, when an AI won 2 wins, that was like a, you know, trajectory that they were very strong from the get-go, and no man has won 2 races in a row this so far this season. Obviously, it was Ricardo, Perez, Ricardo, Ricardo, Vettel. So is this now going to be the start of a very focused Sebastian Vettel in terms of the title fight? Let's see. But Bottas, obviously I've mentioned his resurgence ever since last race at Azerbaijan. Second place, very strong to get ahead and split the two Astons. But Vettel's looking very strong. 33 points he leads the championship by. That's a huge margin, especially if other people are swapping places on the podium regularly. But even with that lower position for Perez today and for both of us, Perez still is second place in the championship. So he's still done a stellar job. You know, you can't be, getting a podium every single race, maybe in a car like ours where we're still, still technically on paper a midfield team. But, obviously Perez has been doing such crazy things. But for us to beat him today, that is what I wanted. Even if it was for a lower position, we still beat him, gaining some confidence from that I can pull into the next episode. We moved down to third place in the championship. But like I said, I'm not expecting us to be in the top 3 in the championship this season. Like, I am fully expecting us to try and solidify P4. If we can ruffle the feathers of the top 3 teams, Aston, McLaren, Merc, then I'll be happy. But I'm not expecting us to be right in there this season. So I'm not too bothered about that. But there are some question marks of why we're a bit slow around Canada. A racetrack where I thought, our car's very good in straight line, low drag, very slippery, and we're lacking a bit of pace in the dry and the wet as well. So, we're going to have to delve into that a little bit and see what's what. But a very strong race for Sebastian Vettel, a stronger race for us. I did feel like we got screwed over a little bit by our engineer, kind of giving Perez the early pit stops before us. But it is what it is. We made the most of it, and we still managed to actually finally beat him. So that's something I can take into next episode. And it was still a very cracking one in terms of action for sure. So you guys, if you did enjoy this one, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.